this something that is unheard of, or is there some precedent for this kind of thing?
I think there's a little bit of a precedent.
The phones are ringing off. The people are trying to get all the details again, as you can imagine.
The town of Cochrane, Ontario is preparing to sell residential lots for as little as $10 if you promise to build a home. Municipal representatives recently making the announcement saying they're targeting families in large, expensive cities with the incentive. We reached the town's mayor, Peter Politis, Sunday afternoon, who described it as an opportunity for young people to get a piece of a lifestyle that seems to be slipping further away.
You know, our youth, the Generation Zs, are a result of the fact that they'll never realize the quintessential Canadian dream of owning a home and raising your family in that home.
Now, Cochrane is not close to Toronto. In fact, it's an hour north of Timmins. But the town has a strong sell. Alongside selling municipal plots of land for as little as $10, they're also preparing a tax relief strategy. Mayor Politis explaining his town has two goals: to bring new residents and families to town, as well as prepare new housing stock as the area prepares to welcome new mining operations.
You've got the electric vehicle market, interestingly enough, that is driving the need for the minerals to produce the batteries and so on.
I think there's some precedent.
Jim Dunn is a professor with McMaster University and director of the Canadian Housing Evidence Collaborative. He says it's not unheard of to incentivize migration. And another town in northern Ontario, Elliott Lake, tried something similar to attract retirees as their mining sector slowed down.
I think the Elliott Lake thing has been actually very successful. We've seen hundreds of households move there. We've seen people retire there.
Do you think that there's a potential here to test a model that could be used elsewhere?
Yeah, it's possible. I think it all depends on what's the industry in those places. Where are people going to work? And, also the construction industry. Is the construction industry viable enough?
And what if there's great success? Could many rural communities have a draining effect on the big cities?
Yeah, there's some risk, I suppose, for Toronto, although this is probably a relatively small number relative to the size of Toronto. And of course, Toronto is still going to be a great attraction for new immigrants and so forth.
Dunn offering one warning to elected officials in Cochrane.
It's also an incentive for somebody to buy and hold and not build and wait and see what happens in the future. And if the land goes up, then they sell and they make some kind of a profit. And that might not be beneficial for Cochrane long term.
An issue Politis says is on his radar.
We've got lots of examples of municipalities across the country over time that have done some good things and learned from some of those things. We're going to learn from those.
Incentives aside, he says he hopes the Northern Ontario lifestyle will also sell itself.
With technology nowadays, it doesn't matter where you live. What you get in a community like this is what we call the true Canadian way of life.
Mayor Politis says they're expecting to have exact criteria outlined between January and April, with hopes that construction could begin on some homes starting in the spring. For City News, I'm David Zura.